I completely, yeah, it was not recording. So you will see it's recording from now on.
Okay, you see my screen, I hope?
Yes, we do.
Great. I tried to follow a little bit the things in the PDF, but there are two lists of bullet points there. And you have something for the overview and something for the individual crops, but they are almost the same. First, I would like to present something about production methods, geographies, volumes, trade and consumption outlets. I think that we have to see whether we need different headings for that. Something about the origin of quinoa, where the current global quinoa production takes place and where the demand is, how it grows also pretty fast, and the new production areas that have locally adapted varieties, which is a development of the last, you could say, 10 years or so, 12 years. And then something about the agronomy of quinoa. Its extreme salt tolerance. You can grow it with an EC of 20 ds per meter, and it will not even be killed with 40 ds per meter. So that's almost seawater level. At that level, the production is not very high anymore, but at least it means that there is a potential to expand protein production and food production in general with quinoa in some areas that might have a salinity problem. Very important that we need to select adapted crop cycle lengths for different regions. But if you can do that correctly, then there would be a reduced water need in comparison with maybe some more traditional crops. We see some demand for replacing starch products like sorghum or that kind of crops with quinoa, because people want a more nutritional product, nutritionally high quality product. I will say something about protein content in quinoa. It's not a protein crop in the sense that it has 80% protein or so, or 50%. It's in between 15 and 20% protein, which is very interesting. But there's also an interest to see whether we can still select for higher protein content. There's also an issue about a yield gap. I saw that in another presentation also. We have shown with models that 5 to 6 tons per hectare is possible. In experimental farm trials, we see that that happens. 7 tons has been seen in our trials and in different places. So it should have a yield that is comparable to spring cereals. But today, farmers get only 2 to 3 tons per hectare on average, even under generally good conditions. It depends. So there's a lot to improve there. Maybe it's choice of adapted crop cycles. Maybe it's weed control, which is an issue. All in all, this yield level is really determining the environmental impact, because all things concerning mineral balance, water use, land use, all come down to a high yield per hectare. But we have some calculations, and maybe we can use that here to show that inclusion of quinoa in a diet, replacing pork or other types of meat, or even chicken maybe. Chicken is very, very strong. It's not easy to beat chicken, actually, I think. But it would be possible to use quinoa because of its interesting amino acid composition in terms of footprint. Then something on nutritional quality. The very nice point of quinoa is that it has an amino acid composition that is very close to milk and is really, really good in terms of essential amino acids. The protein content is interesting enough. So the yield of protein per hectare is quite interesting if you compare it with animal protein systems in terms of land use. And yeah, you can make new ingredients of it. There is a need to develop there something maybe, but it's possible to make a sort of milk of quinoa. There are even patents on it. The protein of quinoa can be used as an alternative to whey protein. Even Campina has shown interest in quinoa for that reason, because they believe that the whey protein production is at its limit, because there's the cheese consumption doesn't increase. And another big point is the fact that there is no gluten. But yeah, that's of course important for a few percent of the population, maybe, but that would not be the driver of quinoa production in the end, I think. In terms of consumer acceptance and the hurdles, that I think that there is a need to make sure that we have varieties that do not contain saponins. That is a bitter substance which is not completely healthy, and there are costs involved in removing it mechanically and with water. And we have made varieties that don't have saponins, and I could show an example of the use of genomics. We have found the gene for the saponin, so that helps also to be able to find a mutation that we found and to integrate that into other materials. And finally, I think it's very interesting in terms of the hurdle in acceptance or adoption. As it is a very new product for many people, we need recipes and derived products, maybe even to help the adoption. And I question mark here is, if you talk about new crops and new sources, should we also have a little item on a nice recipe that we could use? With that,
maybe a good example for the box.
Sorry,
there will be. I will come back to that later a little bit, Robert.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good. Then I would like. Yes, thank you, Robert. So then I would like to give the word. Pedro, are you going to present, or is João going to present?
It's João.
Okay. João, can you hear us? João, you are muted. Maybe Pedro, maybe you could try to contact João. Yes, is that okay? Yeah. And maybe what I will do is that then I will swap and ask Roberto if you want to tell us about your plans for the bean project, for the bean chapter, sorry.
Okay.
Sure. Yes.
Are you listening?
I can share my screen.
I think João is unmuted.
Yes.
And he's got a nice ringtone.
I'm available now. To the problem.
Sorry. Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet, but almost. No, not yet, Roberto. Now we see not ourselves. So maybe sharing the.
Okay, let me. Yes. Okay.
Yes, now we see it. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Just like colleagues have mentioned, I followed the instructions that were sent to us in the PDF, and I have a few lines that I've developed based on the guidelines that you sent us. The bean chapter will cover the current status of the common beans in Africa. That will be my focus. I'll talk about production methods, and I also, under the production methods, I'll discuss. I think I've not included it here. The origin of the beans in Africa, where they came from, the common beans. Then I'll talk about the volumes per varieties that are being produced across different hubs or corridors in Africa. In Africa, different types of beans are produced in different regions. So I want to bring out that clearly. And the different varieties that have been developed over time that are disease or climate change tolerant, I'll discuss that as well. Then the distribution, which I've put in brackets as trading, the trading hubs of the beans in different corridors across Africa will also be discussed. And the third aspect that I want to talk about in our chapter, is the consumption levels of beans per varieties across different regions within Africa. And here the emphasis will be discussing why beans are considered as a food security crop within Africa, and the environmental impact. There will be a there will be a discussion regarding the environmental impact, and then the nutritional quality of proteins will also be discussed, and here the importance of the beans in the production of nutrient-dense composite flours will be discussed. And lastly, the consumer acceptance and the concerns regarding beans will also be discussed. In brief, that is it.
Very much, Roberto. I think that's a clear outline of the chapter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I would like to give the word to João. João, can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
Okay.
We can hear you as well.
Okay, sorry. I was a little bit late because I was not informed by email with the address of this meeting. So I am sorry. I was well, I'm now here, but I have my registration on Doodle, possibly not on the right time. And so that's the reason, because I was not addressed any.
Oh, I'm really sorry for that.
Okay.
Sorry, that's probably my mistake. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. So what we are talking about is lupins, and I am going to present you a very small presentation well, let's to see. Yes, it's here. Can you see anything? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Good. So what we have a general. Sorry, the Portuguese words that I have here. Some are in English and some are in Portuguese, but we treat the lupins like a grain legume crop, a proteaginous in French. So what we are going to talk about is about the lupins, albus, luteus, angustifolius, and mutabilis, in a consensus of general other species, like the names, as you can see here. There are 17 names that we call the proteaginous, or the grain legume crops, and you can see the soya and the groundnuts, the Aricipodia. They are more considered like oleoproteaginous. That means is rich in oil too. So
João,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. You missed in the beginning of this meeting. So actually what we are doing at the moment is pointing out what are in bullet points what we everybody is going to do in the chapter that they are involved. So we are taking about 2-3 minutes per person to provide this information so that the others can
so that I have to skip all this talk about so yes, I don't have that point. That's my problem, and so I'm not. I'm well talking without no light about your considerations. So possibly I have to stop here. Or what you think? I don't know what.
So João, I think it's you have provided together with Pedro already, I think, a first draft, and I think that it would be good to maybe work on that and share it as well with the others. And I think that if you like, we can sit together and prepare something in that direction, and then we share it with all. I will come as well back later that we will have a shared opportunity for, or a shared drive, let's say, where everybody can put information, and then in this way we can share it.
Okay, if you want. Yes, I think it's better because I have a very big explanation here, so we have no time to talk about all these points, as you can see.
Sounds very good, João.
Okay.
Then, thank you. In that
Louisa,
case, then,
we already have a group on Teams.
No,
Files.
I will come back to that in a moment.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Robert. Ingrid. Ingrid, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Just had to unmute. So I can also share the screen, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I'm leaving.
So yeah, I made a short draft with bullet points. I hope you can see it now. And it's about duckweed or water lentils. And I will write the chapter together with Julian Mes. So I will start about what is special about this plant and say more about the history of use. So it's not used as food in Europe, but in some countries it is used. It has been used as food in 1600 or whatever, so I'll give a little bit of explanation there and what makes this plant special, and that's mainly the way how it produces, so the enormous amount of biomass that it can produce in combination with proteins that are present. Then I will very more quickly than in other chapters, I will start with the hurdle for duckweed, which is that it is seen as a novel food in Europe. So it needs, at least in Europe, the authorization from the EFSA, European Food Safety Authority, to be used as for human consumption. So this is quite a hurdle. And then I would like to give overview in a simple way of the scientific data that were produced that we actually needed to fill the novel food dossier, but that tells a lot about safety of the proteins, bioavailability of the proteins in intervention studies, the protein quality, so the amino acid profile, which is very good. Consumer acceptance, these are also things that we performed of water lentils. It's another name for duckweed. I also would like to focus a bit more on sustainability of the crop, but that's something that's still an area of research, but this is nice to include. Then outlets for the crop. So how could you use it as a vegetable or extract the protein, but mainly as vegetable. But I will keep focus on food. So it will not be on feed or whatever. Then benefits of water lentils compared to other plant sources. And again, coming back to composition, nutritional value. And the technology development that we see that is still needed. So first, of course, it needs to be accepted. So once this dossier has been accepted and it can be used, then actually many things have been done already in the 6 or 7 years of research that we performed. But one of the steps, technology steps that might be the next step is, for instance, the cultivation, if this can be done via vertical farming. So this is also nice to explain a bit more about that. Yeah, so this might be different compared to the other chapters because this is still a novel food in Europe. It's not used at a larger scale. So this makes it, I think, a little bit a different type.
Thank you, Ingrid. Very nice. I would like then to go into Maria for the microalgae.
Okay, I will also shortly just share my screen. It has some similarities with the other aquatic, with Ingrid, of course. Let me see. Do you see it?
Not yet.
I see. Oh, let me see. I think I did something. Yeah, I think it should come now. Now, and now, yes, right? You see my.
Yes, but now we see your.
Yeah, now you're seeing a lot of other things. Yeah, that is it here. So here, you see it?
Yes.
Oh my, sorry, it's jumping. I got something. Okay, I will put it a bit smaller, else you don't see it, I guess.
If you put it a little bit down.
Yeah. I will,
or a bit up, sorry.
Yeah, a bit, so, okay.
Super.
So the draft outline. So I would start with the short historical background. In fact, the first production has taken place or studies on the production in the 50s, because then it was a shortage on protein. But then the Green Revolution came, and then these died a little bit at that time. There is a historical use also, for example, in Chad. They use it in the normal consumption, but I will very shortly introduce this. Then I would go to the sustainability and advantages. Why look at this aquatic crop, and it has also on the independence on fertile ground and arid locations, so you can go to different places, you can use seawater, and there's also a large diversity with different species with different requirements in terms of, for example, temperature. So it goes also, I will connect to the potential, let's say, geographical potential in different places, and also, of course, the high aerial productivities, and also the protein content, which can go up to 67%, 70% of the biomass in protein. Then I would go to what is current production and applications. There's a few species that are presently produced and used. The applications are still limited, mostly as health supplements. It's changing in the last years. And then I would go also to the protein nutritional functional properties and food, the examples of food with microalgae inside as a source of protein or carbohydrate. Yeah, I will focus on proteins, but there are still limited applications. So there is a very small market at the moment. And then also, as Ingrid said, also the challenges here are extremely important. The novel food legislation. So there are presently 3 species that can be used. The production technology, the developments, and then also the domestication and also contaminations and consumer acceptance. So the challenges, of course, it's a new technology. They are still very important here, that I would also like to have a little bit of focus also here, and also on what's already been done in terms of protein. So that's shortly, that's the draft outline of.
Thank you very much, Maria.
I'll stop sharing. Let me see.
Then I will
Yeah.
continue sharing. Really exciting. I think that it was really nice to hear all the different aspects for the different crops, and I think this is also very much what we had in mind, that every crop will have is specifications, is special advantages, and also bottlenecks, and I think they are really nicely getting in were very nicely illustrated within the different bullet points of the different presentations from the different people. I'm looking into the time, and I think we have a very short time. So I think that what I will do is that I will tell you, maybe practical information. This information is also on the on your briefings document. In the end, I think that the most important to explain in here is that, well, Robert was saying, well, maybe there will be some aspects, some possibilities to bring up some highlights, and this can be done in text boxes, but also pictures and figures. Please keep in mind that what we would like to do in here is really produce a book that is for non-specialists in the domain. So also the language is important that we keep it more into a maybe newspaper style rather than a scientific article. So I think that is the most important information that we would like you to keep in mind. So just about the timeline. So Robert, you asked about how we are going to share. So we will make a MS Team link area where we all can access. And our suggestion would be to upload these very nice outlines of the chapters into that so that others can both or comments or give suggestions, but also can be inspired by your outlines, and maybe in this way I think we can get the best out of this book. Important deadline, so we would like you to please upload these bullet points before the 30th, so we will send you very soon the MS link. Then the 9th of July will be the deadline for the first text submissions. We will then continue, they will be then reviewed by editors. We have as well an optional activity that we would like to include in here, and that is the possibility to have your chapters peer reviewed by PhD students. The way this is going to be organized, we want to come back to you as well if there are interests, but in the end what we would like to provide you is other insights and things that you, ideas that you might or not include in your chapter, and by actually having the creative PhD students looking into it from a different perspective than the writer. And if you are interested, then we would like to provide this possibility. But again, it's an optional activity, so no need if you don't feel that that's necessary. Then we will have feedback and possible revisions by October, November. December, January, we will have the final editing and the images that will be added. Also in February, March, we expect to make the final layout with the publisher, and we aim to publish early or mid 2022. Are there any further questions that we wanted that have not been addressed?
Can I just ask about the references? You said newspaper style, but will the references be embedded in the main text, or will they be just provided in numbers at the end? Or how do you see the referencing fitting with the article?
So in fact, we haven't yet determined for that format. I think that for now we would like to have just the best is to put the references in the text, and then, but in the end, think also that this reference should be not like in a scientific article, but really as a newspaper like. So really only relevant for adding to the information in the text.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Are there other questions? Maria? You are muted. You can't unmute yourself. Let me see if I can unmute you.
Is my...
Yeah, now you are.
I am? You hear me? Because
yes,
my computer, we can hear you. I think my computer is getting tired. I just have the question, is the relation, for example, when we discuss these technologies or the challenges, how will it be linked to the other, because you also write that on the, let's say, future, on the challenges, because there are other chapters, not chapters, but other, how do you call it, sections, larger, and how do you make this, is there a connection, how will it work, Louisa?
Shall I
Stacey?
take
Yes.
this one? Yeah, Maria, looking at your plans, I think that you will probably end up spending some time on the technology developments that are needed, because that is very present with algae as a source. But what I got from the way your outline works is that you're going to touch on a number of bottlenecks each, but not in great depth, but just highlighting this is necessary, and that's necessary. And in that regard, I don't think there will be any problem with the future pathways chapter. For example, we are going to have a future pathways chapter that talks about the future of protein processing, but that will be much more about how can we find innovative or milder processing, like what's needed, and how is that whole sort of collection of protein processing technologies going to evolve into the future. So I think if you keep it to calling out what's needed for your specific source, that's actually something that will give our future pathways authors, something to build on, as long as you're not going into depth on one technology breakthrough.
Yeah. Okay, that's clear, Stacey. Thanks.
Yeah. You're welcome. And I put feedback to almost everybody in the chat, just thoughts. It's your chapter. Take what works, leave what doesn't.
Stacey, you made lots of comments on economics in the chat, which was good. I was also wondering whether anywhere in the rest of the book there will be a sort of integration, because you talk about these, what the word you used, just future paths, or what was it? And there you probably get an integration of the whole protein transition topic, maybe also focusing at full diets with all the components in it. And for example, the land use per different types of diet. So optimization of land use there, because that will be a big issue, and that's why we want to go to a plant-based protein menu, I guess, because we don't have enough room maybe to only use animals for it. So where will that happen in the book? And that will have some impact on how we present data in the individual chapters, I think.
Yeah. There are a few things in what you've said, Robert. There will be a chapter that integrates more with respect to diets and the sort of total available portfolio of protein nutrition. There will be a different chapter that looks a bit more at land use. But what you're really pointing to is how is that kind of integrated, and as the editorial team, we did intend ourselves to try and write some pieces around the chapters that try to integrate and try to highlight the trade-offs or the balance between those separate chapters. I think that will be a challenge, but I think this book will also live or die on whether we can kind of integrate it and make it a coherent whole. So yeah, I mean, it's an excellent point. Challenging.
Yeah, what I did once, because I want to prove all the time, of course, that quinoa can contribute to less land use, to see whether I can make it happen, So I took a European average diet and put in some production functions for the crops to see, and cost prices, and also a little bit about nitrogen use in it, and then try to see, hey, if I now would skip one source out of that diet, or let's say which source would be kicked out first, and in my case it proved that, for example, rice production in Europe would be easily kicked out by quinoa, because both in terms of environment, in terms of protein production, and in terms of cost price, it would just work. And
Robert, would you like to share? Would you like to share that in the MS Teams, because I think that's an interesting point that maybe others would like to pick on.
I think that what I have I should share with somebody who would pick it up, because it's not a paper or so, it's an Excel worksheet in the end, which might need a little bit of discussion with the receiver to fully grasp what I want to do there. So just putting it there in the Teams folder would probably not help a lot.
Yeah, but then do it in that perspective.
I have to spar a little bit with somebody to talk about it a little bit, to see how we could change it into something that would be easily used by somebody else.
Thank you,
It's
Robert.
an interesting thing to do, and to see whether you can replace milk and what would happen if you, which other product, because there could be other products that also take up the position from the current products that are there, and that makes it a rather complex issue. It's sort of linear programming you start doing.
Robert, maybe we still.
So that can be done later, and if you would know a person who would be on the right person to receive this, then I would be very happy to take it up.
Thank you, Robert. I think that we are a little bit already over the time, and I want to thank you all very much for this very nice and very fruitful, I think, discussion on the different contributions for this book. And Stacey, maybe you would like to say a few last words?
Oh, no, only just thank you so much for your willingness to contribute. And if there are other things that pop up, or if you would like to be, if you look at the outline with the Future Pathways chapters, for example, like Robert, if you want to be in contact with any of the contributors who are writing those chapters because you see overlap or complementarity, just let us know. We're happy to facilitate. Or if there are things you want to include, but you feel like you need a helper or someone who's in that domain, also there, we're happy to do a kind of matchmaking, facilitate, and support you in whatever way we possibly can.
Thanks, Stacey. And Louisa, will it be possible to share this PDF that you're just sharing with us now with the timeline and the outline, just so that we have the latest version of that? That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. We will do that, and we will do it probably in the MS Teams, but we will send it as well around. I think then you have it in two ways.
That would be good. Thank you.
Thank you. Really nice talking to all of you. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.